Good morning, class 10. In the previous lecture, I discussed with you about multinational corporations, and I also gave you one example of how MNC had affected India's environment, and so many people had lost their lives, that is during the Bhopal Gas Tragedy. So you have to really study Bhopal Gas Tragedy incidents properly, why the particular incident took place, this particular MNC pesticide industry, American-based pesticide industry, which was situated in Bhopal, functioning with so many problems. Zoning was not followed for this particular industry. The machines which should be working, they were not functioning properly. The scrubbers and other lots of machineries were there, but the supervisor who is supposed to check the machineries, that supervisor had been thrown out as a cost-saving measure. And because of lots and lots of mistakes on part of this particular multinational corporation, what happened is the Bhopal gas tragedy, which is fresh in the minds of people of India till today. This worst incident that has taken place in India, the Bhopal gas tragedy, you have to understand the various reasons why this particular tragedy occurred. And as I was telling you in the previous lecture, that it took 25 years for the government to give the Supreme Court to give its verdict regarding this particular incidents. And later you have to understand that the US government, they paid $750 million to the affected people. But what was the use of paying so much of money when the people who had to lose their lives had already lost their lives? And the people who were suffering from various kinds of diseases, tumors and cancers, they were suffering and nothing could be done for them. So the only thing that the MNC did was to send money to the country for the victims, but that was of course of no use. So now what we will try to understand is, since this disaster occurred and since there are so many environmental issues concerned with MNCs coming into underdeveloped and third world countries, something has to be done to control, to regulate MNC inflow into developing countries. So in very brief, I have given you the notes. Very briefly, I'll tell you now what are the conditions that are put forward by the developing countries before they allow an MNC to come and function into your country. So if India is to allow an MNC to come and function in India, what are the conditions that India should put forward? What do we want in our country to happen with that particular MNC? If those particular regulations are followed, only then developing countries should allow the MNC to come and function into your country. Like number one, if an MNC is coming into your country's GDP should definitely rise. It is not that the entire profit should be taken away by the host country. The country where the headquarters is located, all the benefit should not go to that country. It should help your country's financial situation also. So if an MNC is to come, my country's GDP should rise. The gross domestic product, the financial condition of my country should definitely improve. Then the second point would be that MNC should not violate the environmental laws of the recipient country. The laws that India has, the pollution control laws that are set up in our country, that should not be violated at any cost by the MNC. Like as I was telling you, MNCs are responsible for global warming and emission of greenhouse gases and contamination of water and extraction of water. Why they do this is because our laws are not stringent, they are not strict. So we allow our country's environment to get degraded. But now it says that when an MNC is to come and function in your country, they cannot violate the laws. They cannot emit greenhouse gases beyond the limit, beyond the cap. There is a limit that has been established in the Kyoto Protocol. So that limit should not be exceeded by the MNCs. Then the MNCs are using substances that have already been banned. That cannot be allowed. Like chlorine, CFCs. This is a substance that has been banned all over the world. But in many places, we have found that MNCs were still using chlorine in manufacturing various substances. And that will degrade the ozone layer. So that cannot be allowed. So there are certain situations that have been put forward by developing countries like India to allow the MNC to come and function into your country if they follow these particular rules and regulations. So they cannot pollute, they cannot violate laws, they cannot extract too much of groundwater so that our own country's lands do not get water for irrigation. They cannot use substances that have been banned all over the world. They have to provide employment to the host country people. Your country's GDP should rise. If all these conditions are fulfilled, only then an MNC is allowed to come and function into your country. Otherwise, if we allow what was happening earlier, then we have already degraded the environment so much. Now, if there is further degradation of the environment, then it becomes irreversible, unmanageable problem which cannot be resolved later. Okay, so this is how we control the inflow of MNCs into the country. And the last topic which is undiscussed from this particular chapter is about international trade. Very simple question. International trade we have discussed in the previous chapter also. Now since the topic is here also, international trade, it's trading of goods and commodities and technological knowledge from one country to another. When we share goods with other countries and we import goods from other countries, this import and export of essential goods and commodities from one country to another is called international trade. Now, why international trade? Is because every country has we cannot manufacture all the goods and commodities required by our consumers in our own country. Like we take the example of India, we are an agricultural country, but we are not very good in production of technological products. So our investment should be in production of agricultural goods. So what we do is, because our country's soil and climate is suitable for agriculture, we produce agricultural goods and we provide it to the other countries. And what we do is we import technological goods and many other products from other countries which we cannot manufacture. So what happens with international trade? As a consumer, I am exposed to lots of choices around me. I have my own country's products in front of me, plus I have products which are coming from other countries into my country. So what happens to a consumer is, as a consumer, I have lots of products to choose from. So I can choose a product which suits my financial condition. Cheap products, good products, whatever I want, I get it in my country, in my place, and that is possible only because of international trade. If trading was not there, today you would not know about so many products and commodities that are actually coming into your country. We would be only exposed to the Indian products that we have in our country. But as you know, we have products which have come from so many countries, from toys to perfumes to cosmetics to food material. When you read the packets, you understand that they were not manufactured in your own country. But as a consumer, you are exposed to all these items, and that is possible only because of international trade. So we can see that international trade is something very good, which allows a consumer to choose products from a host of choices in front of us. right? This is international trade. And when we have trading partners, when we are trading with Bangladesh or we are trading with other countries, what happens is, because I'm sending my products and I'm receiving products from them, we also build a good friendly relation. So we are also trying to bring peace and tranquility because of international trade. If you have a trading partner, definitely you will not make that partner your enemy. So there is peace and less chances of war because of international trade. And there's one last topic where I have given you the note also, which talks of fraudulent trade, unfair trade. It's a 2-mark question which may ask you about unfair trade. So there is, when too much of trading happens, there are some people, there is corruption which is taking place while trading is on. So that kind of trading where false advertisements are given, which is fraudulent, which is unethical, when that kind of trade happens between countries where maybe something wrong is mixed with a product which should not be consumed by a consumer, where wrong advertisements are given and that product is actually something else, when this kind of unethical, fraudulent trade takes place, which every country is trying to control, this kind of trade is called unfair trade. Okay, so one is international trade, where we are making trading partners and we are importing and exporting goods and commodities, and a small part of that is unfair trade, which is unethical, wrong trade, where wrong advertisements are given, wrong pricing is done, and this is corruption and cheating of people, that is called unfair trade. Right? So with this class, we come to the end of chapter 9. We have completed chapter 9 and now we are left with only one chapter, the last chapter, which I will start in my next lecture.